So I was trying to figure out how a simple scheduling tool became worth $3 billion and is now used by 86% of Fortune 500 companies. And what I found completely blew my mind because it turns out the founder had already failed at 3 different startups before this one even existed. I went down this rabbit hole because I had started coding a calendar scheduling tool and wanted to know how the leading company in the space, Calendly, actually became so massive. Like, we are talking about a tool that just helps you schedule meetings, right? But then I started digging into the numbers and found out that 20 million people use this thing across 230 countries and had to understand how that's even possible. So I spent hours going through old interviews, founder reports, and the various stories that I could find around it. And what I discovered is this incredible journey of persistence, failure, and one moment of clarity that changed everything. Here's what I found first, and this is where the story gets really interesting. Tope Aotona, the founder of Calendly, didn't just wake up one day and build $1 billion company. This guy failed 3 different times before he even had the idea for Calendly. His first attempt was a dating website. He read an article about plentyoffish.com making millions and thought, oh, I could do this too. But here's the thing, he never even launched the thing that he wanted to do. He quickly realized he didn't have the technical skills or resources to pull it off. That was the first strike. Then he tried e-commerce, selling projectors online. I found these details in a SaaS Cloud podcast interview where he admits that he had terrible margins and barely sold anything. But what really got me was when he said he had absolutely no interest in projectors whatsoever. He was just chasing the money, and I think that's strike number 2. His third startup, another e-commerce business, this time selling gross. Same exact problems, bad margins, no sales, and zero passion for the product. So strike number 3. But here is where it gets fascinating. After these 3 failures, Tope had this realization that completely changed his approach. He told himself he wasn't going to succeed unless he focused on the problem he was actually passionate about solving. And then he waited for an entire year. So in the same SaaS Club interview, I found this, that I think this captures the perfect eureka moments that he found. So Tope was working in enterprise software sales. He'd been doing this for 7 years at companies like IBM. And one day he spent several hours going back and forth over email trying to schedule a single meeting with a prospect. Hours just to find a time that worked for both of them. That night, he started searching for scheduling tools that could solve this problem. And here's what blew my mind. There were already scheduling tools out there. But when he tried them, they were all slow, clunky, and frustrating to use. The market existed, but the execution was terrible. This is where I had to double check the timeline because what happened next seems almost impossible. After months of research, Tope made a decision that gives me chills when I think about it. He took every single dollar he had saved from his 7 years in sales and invested it into building Calendly. Every single dollar. But wait, it even gets better. I discovered that despite having a computer science background, Tope didn't write a single line of code for the MVP himself. He outsourced the entire development. A tech founder who didn't code his own product. That's not something you hear every day. So in 2013, Calendly's MVP launched from Atlanta Tech Village, a co-working space in Georgia, not Silicon Valley, not New York, Atlanta, and initially almost nobody cared. But then something magical started happening and I found the perfect story that explains it. There's this growth marketer who wrote about his first experience with Calendly in 2018. He said what used to take him at least 15 minutes to book a meeting with all the back and forth emails about available time slots suddenly took him just 15 seconds with Calendly. His reaction? I thought, who built this amazing product? Like, And here is the viral effect in action. He immediately created his own Calendly account and added it to his email signature. In the next 30 days, at least 15 people asked him about Calendly and they all started using it too. This is the moment I realized what made Calendly different. It wasn't just solving a problem, it was creating a viral loop. Every time someone used Calendly to schedule a meeting, they were essentially marketing a product to the person they were meeting with. Have you ever had that experience where you discover a tool that's so much better than what you were using before that you immediately wanted to share or tell everyone about it? That's exactly what was happening with Calendly, but at a massive scale. So when I started looking at the goods numbers, I literally couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like by 2015, just 2 years after they had launched, Calendly had 120,000 users through purely word of mouth and organic growth. No paid advertising and no venture capital, just people telling other people about these tools that saved them time. By 2018, they hit 2 million users. By 2019, they were approaching 4 million. Then in 2020, the pandemic created a perfect storm for a remote scheduling tool. Their user base exploded to over 5 million. But here's what really made me stop to reread the numbers again. By 2022, they had 10 million active users and 57,000 businesses using the platform. And get this, they've been profitable since 2016, just 3 years after launching. I had to cross-reference this with multiple sources because it seemed too good to be true. A bootstrapped company that became profitable in 3 years and grew to a $3 billion valuation. In 2021, they finally raised their first major funding around $350 million, but by then they were already a massive success. This is where I'm still processing what I found because some of these statistics are just mind-boggling. Today, Calendly has over 20 million users across 230 countries. That's more users than some social media platforms had at their peak. But enterprise adoption is what really got me. 86% of Fortune 500 companies use Calendly. 86%. We are talking about the biggest corporations in the world and they are all using a tool that started from one guy's frustration with email scheduling. I found a Forrester study that showed Calendly customers achieve a 318% return on investment and save over $687,000 in total net benefit over a 3-year period. They are not just using this tool, they are making money because they're using it. And I'm still trying to process how a simple scheduling tool creates that kind of financial impact for businesses. Like we're talking about ROI numbers that most software companies will kill for. And here's a stat that validates the original problem. Tope was trying to solve this problem. 1 in 4 workers spend 3 to 4 hours per week just scheduling meetings. 3 to 4 hours. That's almost half a workday every week, just going back and forth trying to find a time that works. When I looked at what happened during COVID-19, the growth curve becomes even more incredible. While most companies were struggling, Calendly was growing 5 to 6% per month. The shift to remote work created exactly the conditions where a scheduling tool becomes absolutely essential. By 2023, the revenue hit $276 million, up from $70 million just 3 years earlier. That's nearly 4x growth in 3 years for a company that was already successful. I've been trying to wrap my head around this story, and I think there are a few things happening here that might apply to other businesses, but I'm still processing some of it. First, there is this pattern with the failed startups that I find fascinating. Tope's first 3 attempts were all about chasing money. He saw successful businesses and tried to copy them without any real passion or understanding of the problem. But with Calendly, he was solving his own daily frustration. He was his own customer. Second, the timing seems almost accidental, but maybe it wasn't. He launched in 2013, right when remote work was starting to become more common, but before it was mainstream. By the time the pandemic hit in 2020, Calendly was already established and perfectly positioned for the remote work explosion that followed. But here's what I think might be the most important insight. Calendly succeeded because it made the invisible visible. We all knew scheduling meetings was annoying, but we just accepted it as part of work life. Tupe made us realize how much time we were actually wasting and gave us a simple solution to that. What do you think? Have you experienced this kind of viral effect with any tools that you use? I'm curious if you had that moment where you discover something that saves you time and immediately want to share it with everyone. At least that is what I personally do almost all the time. What I'm taking away from this story for my own project is that sometimes the best business ideas come from your own daily frustrations, not from trying to copy what's already successful. Tupe spent years chasing other people's success stories and failing. But when he focused on solving his own problem, everything changed. I'm also thinking about the power of organic growth. Calendly grew to millions of users without spending money on ads because the product itself was the marketing. Every time someone used it, they were demonstrating its value to someone else. And maybe most importantly, this story shows that being late to a market doesn't matter if you can execute better than everyone else. There were already scheduling tools when Tupe started Calendly, but they were all terrible. Sometimes the opportunity isn't in creating a new market. It's in doing something that already exists, but doing it so much better than people can't ignore it. I don't know if this applies to every business, but it definitely makes me think differently about what problems are worth solving. Maybe the best opportunities are hiding in plain sight. In those daily annoyances, we've all just learned to accept as the usual. What problems are you dealing with every day that you have just accepted as the way things are? Let me know in the comments. I'm always looking for next rabbit hole to explore and the next startup to also dig deep into it. This was very interesting because it was aligned with a problem that I was personally having, and I tried to solve it by building a solution for it. So it made sense for me to take a look at what the incumbent is doing and why they are succeeding at what they're doing. And every one of the lessons that I took from it is what I have shared with you. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like such deep dives into various success stories and even failure stories for startups, then go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I do this deep dive regularly and will be posting every now and then on this channel. So go ahead and subscribe. And also, if you have any suggestions for me, drop it in the comment section and I would respond to you, or do take your recommendation and do a deep dive on the startups that you suggest. Thank you. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye bye for now.